And welcome back to the Field Coach Experts Podcast, the place where franchisors and field teams come to learn practical ways to strengthen their systems and empower their franchisees. I am Jennifer Brannon, Chief Growth Officer here at AC Inc. And today's episode is a little different because normally we have franchisors or leadership teams or we have coaches. We are actually going to talk directly to a franchisee, which, as a lot of you know, I will be a franchisee at heart for the rest of my life. So I'm really excited because this is a little bit of a different take today than we normally do. And we are going to be talking to Ryan Kirkham, who is a franchisee, and he was a member of our performance groups that we run for franchisees here at AC Inc. Otherwise known, they've been rebranded, Ryan, which we'll talk about. They've been rebranded. They're now called our Franchisee Growth Groups. So today we're going to dig into those and hear about Ryan's experience and everything that he learned and how he implemented that into his system. So thank you, Ryan. I know you were a franchisee, or not were, are a franchisee with US Lawns. And just want to welcome you to the podcast. We're so happy you're here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. So let's start by you telling our listeners, introducing yourself, telling them a little bit about your background and what brought you in to become a franchisee of US Lawns.
Yeah, so it's a very long story, but at the end of the day, I'm in my 20th year of franchising. I started actually at the age of 19. When I was younger, I had a commercial, or actually a residential landscape maintenance company. I really wanted to get into the commercial world, and US Lawns was a franchisor in that space at the time. And they were crazy enough to sell me a franchise back then at that age, and that's where my journey began. So I really looked at that as that was my college education. And quite honestly, they saw something in me at that time that I didn't even know about myself, that I wouldn't learn until much later, right? And been forever loyal to the brand because of that. And
nice.
So it's been 20 years of scale and growth, and it's been an awesome journey.
Amazing. Good for you. That's awesome. So you obviously, having been doing this a long time, you would have heard from your leadership team that there was this opportunity to join our performance group. Usually, typically what we do, and I don't know if it was any different for your brand, but often we will go on a town hall or some kind of meeting and introduce what a performance group is and try to generate some interest, tell people a little bit about what they would experience and what's in it for them. What are they going to get out of it, and how is it going to help them with their business? So can you kind of take us back? I think it's been a couple of years now since that you were part of the group, if I'm not mistaken. At that time, what was going on in your business that prompted you to think, you know what, I want to participate in this group?
So I think organizationally, it made a lot of sense to me when the opportunity was brought. But from the business perspective at that time, I think we were into 5 US Lawns territories at that point. Structure was pretty unclear. We did a good job getting through the growth phases, but it was chaotic. And we were looking at another acquisition at the time that was, about the same size of our largest branch that we had running. And I knew that we needed things in place. So I'd actually started studying EOS prior to the opportunity coming. Now, that's great. I had read all of Gino's books and gone through traction and everything else, but I didn't know how to implement it. So I got the call about being able to join this and understanding that it was similar framework. And I said, sign me up. I said, I don't know what you have to do, but I want to be in that group. And I'm thankful that the franchisor gave us the opportunity to do that. And I'm glad that I was selected to be in the group because it was a small group that was selected overall.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I love that you brought up EOS. Our company, AC Inc., we are an EOS company from a leadership standpoint as well. And to your point, EOS is great, and vision traction organizer and all those things in that. Love it. Think it's great. But as a franchisee, sometimes it's a little bit like, okay, but there's a lot here. And how do I translate that into, some strategic planning for my own business? And essentially, a lot of what we do is born out of that need to I'm operating my business, but now I want to do all the things I need to do to be an actual business owner, and then also strategically plan of how to grow my business. So, let's talk a little bit from your perspective, because we're going to just assume that anybody who's listening doesn't understand, what does this group mean? And so can you explain maybe the format and how often you met and the types of things that maybe you were doing on the group?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a bi-weekly cadence that we did. We actually did it through electronic Zoom. Honestly, I was in a peer group with people that I've looked up to for years,
Nice.
some of which are our greatest mentor today. And to be able to be on that call with them and understand what they were going through outside of conference level conversations, right? Because we all see each other at conference, but we're not having like systems conversations necessarily. Right. And to be able to be guided with AC Inc. through, every aspect of the group. We can dive into that a little bit if you want to, but understanding that their struggles weren't so different than mine overall. And structurally, a lot of us had similar problems. And through the group, we were able to navigate that. I think the background of studying traction and everything like I had, it positioned us maybe a little bit better even, because I knew where we wanted to go before I even went into that group.
Nice.
And I had that background and that framework in my mind. I didn't know how to get there. And being in that group is that was the only way I was able to implement it.
Nice. To clarify, what we do is we put together groups on average around 6 people, sometimes more, sometimes less, but people who are like-minded in the sense that they want it. They want to level up their business. They want to learn business skills or whatever it is that we're going to be tackling within that group kind of curriculum and context. It's done via Zoom, 90 minutes every other week for 6 months. And we have different versions, which I'll talk about maybe a little bit later. But in this instance, we will do topics. And I'm going to get Ryan to tell us what he did, but it's really business-based topics that are relevant for the group members. It may be teaching some foundations, like, how to read, not just read P&Ls, but use P&Ls, KPIs, community marketing, time management, staffing, leadership, and then of course the whole strategic planning piece is often modules that we'll customize and bring in to suit the needs of the group. And it's facilitated by one of our facilitators via Zoom. A little bit of homework, but a lot of great discussion and learning. And I love what you said, Ryan, there about the peer-to-peer interaction. And sometimes hearing how other people tackle things or their challenges. And I know as a franchisee, I often felt a little bit on my own island. And whenever you can come together with other franchisees, it's like, oh, this isn't just me. I'm not the only one experiencing this. And learning from others is great. So can we talk about your group in particular and the topics that you guys covered, if you can remember?
Yeah, I think, 100%. So I think one of the, if I go to the very beginning, I think we were discussing core values. And it's an eye-opening conversation because as a franchisee, we have a set of core values that we have followed from our franchisor. Right. And what we all realized pretty quickly is that our core values that we needed within our individual businesses is completely different. So just starting with that exercise and us all bringing together what our core values were that brought our businesses, that was like the perfect path to move forward. And then getting into vision setting and mission setting, thereafter. But it really started with that core value. It was a look inward of what built our success to where we were, and not just taking these templated core values that honestly not everybody even knew.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people think, oh, core values, that's kind of fluffy stuff. That's not like, why would I need to learn that? And you hit it on the head. All franchise systems typically have core values, and that's the overarching core values of the franchise system. But us as business owners, we also have our own core values, how we want to operate in our business, and how do we use those core values. I think that that's something that we try to highlight, as well as using them, living and breathing them, not just you, but your team. How to bring that in, how to manage your team through core values, and your some of your policies with customers and things like that. I think that that's key. And a lot of times, yeah, we do definitely start with that. Did you do anything else? Did you guys do any of the business skills, KPIs, financials, anything there?
Yeah, absolutely. We went through every aspect over that 6 months. Well, what I thought was every aspect. I'm sure there's more, but
Okay.
the in the scorecard templates, like the scorecard templates that were brought, and we were able to form for what our needs were as businesses. Like I still use that template today in our L10 meeting, and yes, it looks very different than it did then, but that was introduced during that, and it brought a lot of accountability throughout our organization. Like our organization in the last 14 months. Completely different. It's unbelievable to me, just looking back. But so going through that, and then the side by side when we were doing P&L differences and understanding how are we incentivizing based on gross profit or net profit, or what that side by side looked like per branch based on how the financials were set up. What is the average AR that you're running versus what I'm running? Some of those numbers are scary to see. Well, at least from my perspective, because I was like, right, we need a process for this that I've never even thought to build. We need somebody in charge of this from the accountability side to make sure that we can get to that number, because I'm looking at my peers' results. That comparison was eye-opening and a huge learning experience overall.
Love it. Love it. What about leadership and staffing? Did you get into that at all?
Absolutely. So accountability chart, and then we all reorganized what our org charts needed to look like. Not a franchisor concept that's put out as a templated form, but what we could build for our businesses and what our businesses need. Really right people, right seats, understanding that, not only understanding how people learn, but what type of leaders we were. I'm a servant leader, and there's different types of leaders in the room, and we all have pros and cons, right? But understanding what our people needed to get the right people in the right seat, and the changes that may be difficult in some circumstances that we had to make to get our accountability charts and our org charts to line up, because they were all over the place for all of us.
I think one of our main messages in that, when we talk about leader, and it's interesting because we'll do surveys a lot of times to franchisees to understand their feeling on where some of these skills are. And lots of people were like, no, I'm low on KPIs, I'm low on financials, I don't get them, or whatever it might be. Most people think they're a great leader. and then you get into it, and now you learn a little. It opens your eyes to truly like other leadership styles. If we were employed and our boss was honest and a little bit of a like disciplinarian or what, we would think that that's what it means to be a leader. And teaching people, no, here's some other options like servant leadership, and here's how you get the most out of people, and these things, because a leadership can really, bad leadership can really sink a business. So that's the goal, is to open your eyes and to intentionally figure out, what do I want to do? How do I want to show up for my team? What kind of leader do I want to be? And what's the process in place for me to be that leader intentionally? So I love that you guys did that. So I'm assuming then, did you come out of the group with a strategic plan with your vision and your 1-year goals? Maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
100%. So to go back to like the VTO concept, our vision, our mission. We all did our BHAG, which was huge. And it's funny because at the time when you're doing that within the group and you're talking about your BHAG, what that looks like, and that's your big hairy hairy, audacious goal. We're challenging each other without challenging each other, right? Because it's like, oh wait, you want to get to that threshold? I want to be a little bit more than that, right? Like, what are we going to do to get there? So there's like a little fun competition in it, but so we all left with that, and we left with the scorecard templates, and we left with structure. Quite honestly, at the end of the day, it's what it was. It was like all these systems that we had worked on over the last 6 months. That was structure. Now I'm going to go back to the homework. Just speaking to the other franchisees who may be joining this group, the homework is the most important thing. And there was two versions of individuals in the group, and I think there was the ones that were prepared, and then the ones that didn't necessarily do all the homework. And you can see the gap pretty quick. But what you're learning is an investment that you're not going to get anywhere else. Like these are fundamental business practices that if you're not doing them, the time and effort to put in on those off weeks, so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Really great point. And that's the reason, one of the reasons we really promote when we're trying to spread the word to the franchisee collective as a whole that, hey, there's this opportunity. We really only want people to join the group who have that open mindset and are willing to do the work and show up and do the homework and be open and be dedicated to growing their business, because that's when it works. That's when you see yourself leveling up your abilities and your business, and you see things happening. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's evident when people let themselves get sucked back into the business and not really try to focus this amount of time on learning what they need to do to level up. So the whole group, the whole process, everything. What were your favorite parts? Like, what did you really love about participating in this group?
I love the peer-to-peer aspect. Like, to be in the room with the individuals I was able to be with. Like, to me, that we were talking about things even outside of what was being taught that week. The conversations are so raw, so great, and you're building a relationship with another franchise owner that probably never gets built otherwise. Yeah. And I think that's huge. For me personally, like from a biggest takeaway standpoint, is like to have this templated process that we had built over this period of time, the bonding that happened while doing that, and then being able to take that and implement it, and then have the results now 12 or 14 months later from that process, completely changing your business. And it's hard, but if you stick with it and you get through it, like, our business is so, like, I don't even know how we used to operate. That's where I'm at. Like, we just had our quarterly offsite. It was our annual, and the amount of issues that are being solved on a week-to-week basis, just because the accountability and the cadence of our weekly meetings, and everybody has a number, and these are all things that you learn throughout this process. All of a sudden, it's not me getting upset or being, getting hot on something I don't feel like's right. It's a number that's being reported out in a group setting with our leadership team, and I know where we're at every week, and everybody knows what their goal is every week because they have a number. And it's like dynamically changed our business. So I have to say, the package of being able to put all that together, you guys, the group allowed me to implement the process that I always wanted. Is the best way to put it.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I love to hear that. So if you think back, then obviously you've talked about the the big changes, and if we had to sum up those in and I don't want to just say, because everybody thinks in ROI. So somebody else might be listening, might be saying, okay, well, Ryan, how much did you go up? How did this impact your top line, your sales, or whatever? And when I'm having these conversations, like, to me, that's a byproduct of what these franchisees really get. So can you talk about the relationship between those two things?
As far as the ROI for getting into the group, like, versus the outcome?
Yeah. How has what you learned position you as a business owner now with your systems and your processes and all this learning that, it doesn't necessarily mean that, I finished the group and my sales go up by 25%, because a lot of people, that's what they talk about. Oh, I'm thinking about using these performance groups because my franchisees need to up their revenue by 25%, or it's we look at things like a lot more organic sense, as it's not about that. That's going to be a byproduct of it. It's all going to happen. It takes time, of course, but it's really more about what these guys are getting, like the systems and the processes that are setting them up for that ROI. Do you have any, I don't know, do you have any sense of all these things that you put in place and what the direct results, or maybe you can kind of put that together with a nice bow in from a business standpoint, team standpoint, and then did you see increases in either revenue growth and or your own profitability?
A loaded question to an extent. Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Okay.
This can you measure it directly? Maybe not. What I can tell you is that from a sales perspective, we just created and launched a sales division on a regional basis this year that would have never happened if we didn't implement the processes that we learned. We have separated roles because we didn't realize people were overburdened in their work and not able to, so like an account management piece versus a salesperson, new business versus upselling clients. We decided, based on what we did in the group, that we needed to separate these two items. We needed new sales to be an independent department. We needed to create that because our account managers need to take care of our clients and drive revenue through our clients. Now that is their sole purpose. They're not chasing new business anymore. Mm-hmm. We have new business developers out that are solely responsible for new business. The dividends and the outcome that will come from, or the outcome that's going to come from that, I don't know that number today. I know what our goal is and I know where we're going. And I can tell you that I think we're going to far exceed it based on the systems and processes that were built with it. Same with operations. I would say from an operations, the accountability that, especially in our business, because it's dynamic. There's a lot of moving parts constantly. And I know all businesses are that way. But without the operational KPIs, how can we add all the new business if we don't know where we're measuring their success? So that goes back to everybody having a number. I'm so confident in our operations team and now our sales team that growth seems like it's probably going to be a lot easier. Well, I know it's going to be a lot easier than it was the way I thought about it 12 or 14 months ago. Mm-hmm. Completely different. Mm-hmm. We're positioned for growth. And I can tell you what's really interesting is when you go back through and you look at all the pieces and you put it together, that when you're doing a financial forecasting piece, and you go back to when you're setting your BHAG, we're increasing our BHAG based on the forecasting we're doing because of the changes we made that were a result from being in this group.
Amazing.
Yeah. Wouldn't have been a thought before.
Right. Exactly. You summed that up so well, because that's what we try to communicate with, franchisors that are thinking about this is because it's just not about, 3 months later it's going to go up by 25%. That's not what we want to see on the group. It's all of those habits and the new way of thinking that's going to position them, and eventually it'll happen, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, 14 months later, like you've said. We can't just say, it's just what they've learned in the group. That's learning the foundation. And obviously there's lots of other things that go along with that. But I think you made the case for exactly what I sometimes struggle to communicate, in all honesty, with franchisors. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, I'm not a franchisor, obviously, but being a part of a franchise for a long time, and a franchise that I love to death, it's like family to me. But at the end of the day, like the franchisor goal, obviously, is revenue based. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we have to get operationally correct. We have to make corrections within the businesses of the franchisees, and I'm thankful to our franchisor for understanding that. Mm-hmm. You can't sell your way out of everything, and you really can't sell your way out of a structure problem. And there's no great way to template from a franchisor's perspective, you can't put something on FranConnect that's going to be the perfect template for everybody, right? This allows that structure to be built differently, which I'll say that they're going to see a lot of success and a lot of dividends from that, probably in 2027. So it is a longer term investment for them, but I bet you it's going to be huge.
Right. Right. Yeah. Amazing. Great. That you said that so well. So just looking at the time, we're going to wind down here. I'm just going to take the opportunity just to, and Ryan, you can learn something about how we're shifting our performance groups a little bit. We've now shifted into our, we're now kind of rebranding these groups into being called the Franchisee Growth Groups. Excuse me. The reason being, we had all kinds of different types of franchisees looking for this kind of help, and it's hard to put them all in one group and do whatever meets everybody's needs. So what we've done, actually, we've divvied it out into 4 different franchisee development pathways. We've got our Jumpstart program, which is designed to be weekly meetings in small groups of new franchisees coming out of training, where we're trying to build weekly habits around lead gen, community marketing, operations leadership, that kind of thing. Then we've got our business boot camp, which is very much some of what Ryan was talking about: core values, KPIs, financial, really taking somebody that needs to learn business skills and teaching them to that a person or that group. Then we've moved into our strategic performance group, which is more about that strategic planning and the BHAG and the long-term vision and the action steps and creating an amazing scorecard and, the really planning out and working on your business stuff. And then our last group is called the Mastermind, which is, if anybody's ever, thought of peer groups or sometimes they're called performance groups, this is really getting people who, not necessarily just top performers, but people who have all the skills and they just want to come together and learn from each other, potentially do side-by-sides on financials and deal with the common challenges and have some accountability to some actions themselves in this group. We facilitate those as well. So those are our 4 new pathways. So Ryan, what do you think of that change that we're making? Give me some feedback on that.
I love it. I think it sounds like a really great structure. I think we might have done maybe a hybrid version of a couple of those, right? And it was a lot to unpack over a period of time. It was great, but I think segmenting it, I would say my only regret, if I was looking back, would be that we didn't start earlier. So I love that you have the new package where you're getting into that weekly cadence and, just on maybe some of the simpler things, like getting that implementation done. I think it's great. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. No, I hope so too. And they're designed to be standalone if you just want to start at these groups, or it can be people coming through as a pathway, starting with Jumpstart, then going into Business Bootcamp, then going to the Strategic Performance Group, and eventually the Mastermind. So I think segmenting out is really going to be able to put these groups together and giving the individual franchisees what they need, meeting them where they're at in that moment. So thank you for allowing me to share that and get your feedback. So Ryan, as we wrap up, my last question to you is if you could speak to a franchisee right now about joining, one of these groups, what would you say and why would they want to do so from your perspective?
I would say if you're looking to eliminate the chaos within your business and you're looking for structure, and maybe you're great at sales and you're great at driving revenue and all these other things, but you have operational or organizational chaos, this is the group to be in. It's going to fix those problems. As an owner, I'm a visionary, and for the first time in my life, I've been able to focus on being a visionary. And we're bringing ideas together, that things that I've only dreamed about before, but because I've been so buried in other things. And this really, honestly, helped me break free and become a leader at a completely different level. So you'd be crazy not to do it, quite honestly.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, Ryan. So for anybody listening, if you want to learn more about AC Inc., if you want to learn about our franchisee growth groups or anything that we do not hesitate to reach out. You can reach me at jennifer@fieldcoachexperts.com. I'm happy to chat with you. And so thanks for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you on the Field Coach Experts podcast next time.